What's up, traders? So today we're going to be talking about two different stocks that are very similar, and both of them could be taking off soon as they both have bright futures ahead of them. And I'll also tell you why I am bullish on both of these stocks, and we'll look at some potential trades within the Moomoo platform. Now, if you're new to the channel, my name is Rashad. I am a full-time options trader, and I am blessed to be able to make enough from the stock market in order to provide for my family and I. Now, before we begin, if you could do me so much of a favor as to go ahead and smash that like button. It truly means the world to me because it will just help push this video out to more people. And also do remember that I am not a financial advisor and this is not financial advice, nor is it a recommendation to buy, sell, or hold any equities or options contracts. Now, before we begin, of course, I will have to start with a word from God that has to do with money, wealth building, or business. And today's word comes from Proverbs 30, verses 7 through 9. It says, "Two things I ask of you, Lord. Do not refuse me before I die. Keep falsehood and lies far from me. Give me neither poverty nor riches, but give me only my daily bread. Otherwise, I may have too much and disown you and say, 'Who is the Lord?' Or I may become poor and steal, and so dishonor the name of my God." All right. So the Lord desires for us to live in abundance. However, He knows that we are flawed and sometimes materialistic. And so what we want is more than enough. However, we don't want too much to where we get to thinking that we're bigger than the program. And honestly, if you really think about it, like I could think of what I would do if I had 100 million. I could think of what I would do if I had 500 million. But like once you get to a billion and more, it's like, what exactly do you plan on doing with that money? Because at that point, giving a lot of it away is really the only thing that's left to do. So, brother Elon, 500 billion, I see your worth. If you feel like giving any of it away, I'm right here. But anyway, guys, I have to shout out a few members of Trader Freedom community who are absolutely trading their way to abundance. And we're still getting a ton of members who are posting their results for the month of September. And I could make an entire video posting everybody's results, but I'll just share a few. And so Heron says he made $8,000 in 24 hours. And that is amazing. And in these paragraphs below, he kind of talks about a signal that I sent out on September 30th, because there is something that happens on the last day of the quarter every single time. And so I informed the community of what would happen, and that exact thing did happen. And so he took advantage of it and made $8,000 in that span. So shout out to you, Heron. Daniel says another nice month for a small account, which continues to grow steadily. So he made $3,500 last month with a small account. So shout out to you, Daniel. Then Keisha also printed crazy amounts of money. We can see she did 46% in one account and did 57% in the other. And that's just a crazy amount. So congratulations on your gains, Keisha. Paul says, yes, I continue to do well. LLC time is coming. Thanks, Rashad. This is Schwab, 84,000 in Robinhood, started with 56K. And we can see that he posted a $29,000 gain in this account here. So he is absolutely printing money in multiple different accounts. Shout out to you, Paul. And then Chandra says portfolio up $20,000 for the month of September. Thank you, Rashad, for teaching us the coverage strangle strategy. Worked pretty well on SOXL. And I love seeing all these gains. Hey, if you know anybody who would like to join a cool community, the link is below in the description. Not only will you get access to my actual trades as soon as I answer them, but you'll get access to my entire framework via the Trade Freedom course. You'll get to ask me questions at any given time. And lastly, you'll be within a community of other traders who all have the exact same goal as you. So if that sounds cool to you, the link is below in the description. And if you know anybody, go ahead and send it out to them. But with that, let's get down to business. The first stock is Upstart, ticker symbol UPST. Now, this company is a company that uses AI to determine a borrower's creditworthiness. And so instead of using the old FICO credit score that we've been using for dozens of years, and that only looks at a few dozen aspects of a person's life in order to determine whether they would repay a loan or not, Upstart uses their own AI algorithms that looks at hundreds of different data points about the person to determine if they would pay back a loan or not. And over the years, it has been determined that it is much more effective at determining a borrower's creditworthiness than just the FICO credit score alone. And because of that, well over 100 different banks and credit unions have adopted Upstart software in order to offer it for their customers. And every time these banks use their software in order to underwrite a loan, Upstart charges a fee. And looking at their latest earnings report, we can see that the transaction volume is simply increasing. So more and more banks are using Upstart's platform. Now, if there's one type of business that knows how to make money, it is banks. Banks absolutely know how to make money. And banks are typically very conservative with the risk that they are willing to take when it comes to their money. So the fact that more and more banks and credit unions are adopting Upstart's programming, that gives me even more and more confidence. And on top of that, this is a company that I have been trading literally for years and it has treated me very, very well. And so let's go ahead into our brokerage and look at a potential trade. All right, so here we are looking at the chart for Upstart, and we can see that it has been quite the roller coaster over the last few years. But as of right now, it's currently trading at $52 as we speak. And we can see literally this year, it started off the year around $55 before shooting all the way up to $96 just in February. And then we had all the tariff drama, which put it back down to about $31 at the low. And then over the coming months, it shot all the way back up to about $87 at the high. And then now over the last few months, it has sold off again and now is at currently $52.48. Now, what I do want to point out to you is literally this week, it went all the way down to as low as $50.10, and then it bounced back up. Now, obviously not a huge bounce. However, it held that $50 support line. Now, typically those big round numbers will usually be some form of support or resistance. All right, so multiples of 10, multiples of 50, and definitely multiples of 100. And so it hit that $50 mark and it bounced back up a little bit. But here's another really critical data point that I want to show you. So here we're looking at the gamma exposure. Now, if you're not familiar with gamma exposure, it can essentially show you where market makers may need to buy or sell. And negative gamma exposure can show you where market makers may need to buy at. And so if we look right here at this $50 strike level, that is the largest level of negative gamma exposure for Upstart. And so right here at $50, and we can see again at $47.50, market makers may need to buy in order to hedge the positions that they already have open. And so that may again be another reason why we saw it bounce off of $50 exactly. And so now that we have that information, let's go ahead and look at a potential trade. All right, so here we are at the options chain, and I think I'm going to go probably to this expiration that is 35 days out from now. And what I want to do, since I am fine with owning shares of this stock, then I want to sell puts anywhere below those markers that we've seen. So anywhere below 50, and then we saw that it had a ton of negative gamma exposure at 47.50 as well. So I'll probably be conservative and go under that as well. And since this stock has had a lot of recent volatility, the premiums are very, very good. And so let's say for this case, I'll go probably around this $44 strike. And I'll go ahead and sell a put at that marker. So if we go ahead and click, and we can see I'll collect $259 per contract for selling this put. And if we look over here, it'll say max loss, it's $4,141. But of course, it is just saying that is what your max loss would be if the stock were to go to zero during the time that you had this options contract open. And so obviously we wouldn't be actually doing this strategy on any stock that we felt could possibly go to zero while we were trading it. But also that is the amount of money that you would need per contract in order to put on this trade. And so if you say have a smaller account, then you can just easily turn this into a credit spread by buying to open any put that is less than this $44 strike, right? So I could come down here and open up this $40 put and I'll buy to open. I could just add that to my ticket and we can see it does two things, right? It lessens a little bit the amount that we'll receive. And so now I'll make about $117 per contract. However, it drastically reduces the amount of money that we need in order to put on the trade to begin with, right? If we look over here, now we only need $283 to put on this exact same trade. Whereas we needed over $4,000 to sell just the put before. All right. And so that is a drastic improvement as far as the buying power needed in order to put on the trade. And if we come over here and we look at the P&L curve, well, we can see Upstart's current price right here where these white dashes are. And we can see as long as it stays above the mark that we set, then we just make our $107 per contract and we go about our day. All right. However, if it were to drop below the strike that we set, which was 44, then you can see as I slowly move down, we'll make less and less and less money. And then our break even point will be right here at $42 and about 94 cents. And then if it were to drop further than that, then this will become a losing trade. However, our max loss would hit once it goes below our long put, which was at $40, right? And so the max we would lose is $294 per contract on that trade. Now, as far as exiting the trade, I typically will exit anywhere between 50 to 80% profit. And the next question is always, well, why the range? Well, I'll exit at 50% if and only if I see opportunity elsewhere, a better opportunity. if I'm like, oh, this trade over here would be amazing and I'll collect way more money, then I'll go ahead and close this trade in order to free up some buying power. However, if that's not the case, then I'll typically allow it to get around 75, 80% and then go ahead and close out from there. And as far as exiting the trade, well, if I'm just selling the put, then I will go ahead and take assignment of the shares because I would never sell puts on a stock that I would not like to actually own. However, if you don't want to own the shares, then you could just put on a stop loss and go about it that way. All right, but that is Upstart. And now let's head over to our second stock, which is SoFi, ticker symbol SOFI. Now, obviously, SoFi is a very, very popular stock right now, and it's for good reason. They are consistently getting better and better at what they do, and they're figuring out more and more ways to make money from their business. All right, and both SoFi and Upstart are very similar that they both use AI very heavily within their businesses, but SoFi uses AI pretty much for all things banking related. All right, they have extremely transformed from back in the day where they just focused on refinancing student loans. And my goodness, they will send out 1 million envelopes per week trying to get people to refinance their student loans. All right, but they have leveled up from those days. They are still doing that. However, they are making money in several different ways now. And this is something they even announced just recently is they are actually going to start offering options trading. All right, SoFi is entering into my world and they are going to start offering options trading. So they are literally thinking of any single way that they can make money from the finance market. And I love that for them. And I am looking forward to being on this journey and making money off of them as they continue to find ways to better and better their business. And so let's go ahead over back to the Moomoo platform and look at even more reasons on why we should be bullish on SoFi. All right, so taking a look at this chart, we can see I have the Bollinger Bands pulled up on the daily candles, and we can see it is getting near that bottom Bollinger Band. All right, it has had a sell-off over the last few weeks, and that excites me because I am just like my wife. I love a good sell. And so we can see it is getting to the bottom of its range, right? The Bollinger Bands aim to show us the range that a stock is expected to trade within. And normally it's pretty accurate, right? Going all the way back here, anytime where it popped out, it usually pops back in, right? Here popped out, pop back in, and that pattern just continues on. But over 95% of the time, it stays within the Bollinger Band. So I am very excited to see it now trading at the bottom of that band because that gives us a much better entry. And if you liked the stock while it was up here at $30, then you should absolutely love the stock when it is down here at 25. All right, I will never understand that. Why are stocks the only thing in the world where people like paying a higher price for it? People get excited and want to buy things when they're at all-time highs. However, when it starts to sell off and it gives us a discount, people get scared and they run away. I'll never get it, but you have to flip that way of thinking and take advantage of these opportunities. And one of the amazing tools that Moomoo has on their platform is this trend projection button here. And what it aims to do is to show you a chart that is very similar to the chart that SoFi is showing right now and to show you what that other chart did in the future. So let's go ahead and look at the trend projection. All right, so it says that Sterling Infrastructure, ticker symbol STRL, had a very similar pattern to what SoFi is doing now. And then after that, we can see it kind of consolidated and then shot up. And so it is saying that there could be a trend projection for SoFi. All right, obviously this is not an end all be all. It's just a very cool tool to kind of back up some things that you're already thinking. So there's that. However, let's take a look at one more thing. Let's go down here and use Moomoo AI and ask it, what are some recent reasons why we should be bullish on SoFi? All right, so it came back with revenue growth. Quarter 2 2025 revenue reached 854 million, which was a 42.8% growth year over year. And as far as net income, they went up 458% year over year, with EPS growth up 700% year over year. And then down here it mentions member growth, added 850,000 new members, which is up 34% year over year. And then deposit growth, total deposits grew to $29.5 billion, which is up 14% from 2024. And then it says technology platform partnerships with BlackRock and blockchain initiatives open new revenue streams, launching blockchain-based international transfers and AI-driven products like the robo-advisor platform. All right, and it goes on and on and on. But one last thing I want to point out is the options activity. It says unusual bullish call options for expiration of December 2027 at the $40 strike. and high put to call ratio suggests investor optimism. So I believe there are several reasons to be bullish about this stock, and I look forward to being down for the ride. So let's go ahead and look at the options chain. So first thing I want to point out is that it shows that they will have earnings on October 28th. And so if we are fine with actually owning the shares of the stock, then we could take advantage of that because the premiums will be higher for the dates that are after earnings than they will be for the expiration dates that are prior to earnings. So we could go probably to this date that's right after the earnings, which is 28 days out from now. So I'll go ahead and select that. And with it being currently around $25 right now, what I could do is look at the expected move. So the expected move is right here. It's plus or minus $3.96. And so I will just subtract that amount from the current price, and that'll put us around $21, give or take. Now, if you recall, we've seen that it was at the bottom of its Bollinger Band. And so reasonably so, I do expect for it to, at very least, consolidate sometime here in the near future. And so maybe I am fine with going a little higher as far as my strike price. So let's say I want to come up here to this $22.5 strike price that is currently at a delta of 0.26 and is paying anywhere between $92 to $95 per contract. Then I would do the same thing. I would go ahead and open that up, and it looks like I'll get about $94 per contract. And if we look at the P&L curve, we can see as long as the stock price, which is currently right here, stays above the strike price, then we just make the $93 per contract and we go about our day. However, if it were to drop, then we can see we'll make less and less and less. And then our break even would be around $21.57. And if it drops further than that, then the contract will be worth less and less. However, we are fine with that because we were fine with purchasing the shares of the stock that we really wanted to own at the price that we set. All right, so if it were to drop below 22.5, I am absolutely fine and happy with that because I am fine with purchasing the shares at that price. And so that is SoFi. Now, these are just examples, so please don't just blindly follow me on YouTube. I post my actual real trades within the Trader Freedom community. These are just examples. But again, if you would like to join a cool community, we would absolutely love to have you. The link is below in the description. And also make sure to take advantage of the deal that is going on right now with Moomoo. Right now, if you open up an account and deposit money, you can get up to $1,000 of NVDA shares and also a $100 cash bonus on top of it. But you can only get that with the link below in the description. And so make sure to take advantage of it. But that is it for this video. Let me know down in the description if you plan on trading either of these stocks, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace!